Hey guys, Deborah Scannell here. I thought it would be a good idea to show the process that I normally go through when I want to produce and deliver a finished image to a client such as an interior designer or an architect or a builder. Now, I shot this for the company that I used to work for when I was in the kitchen and bath business, Keystone Kitchen and Bath. And here are just quickly a few of the finished images that I went ahead and did, color corrected, and everything is complete. And I wanted to continue on today and just show, if I can find it, sorry if I'm making you dizzy. Here are the two images that I chose. One, this is the flashed shot, and two, more of the natural light shot. So I took both of these images into Photoshop. So let's go down here to the bottom. Now, many of you that are watching this may not even understand Lightroom or Photoshop or editing, and that's fine. The purpose of this was to document what it takes to produce a complete image. Here's the original that I brought in, and we'll go through some of these kind of quickly, and we'll highlight some of the instructions that I gave to each line item here. So base shot with the added flash. Next shot is I mixed in, here's our mask, I blended in some of the natural light. Next up, I did overall curves. Look at the dishwasher and the stove, and this might be a good time to actually talk about this for a minute because you don't see it right away until someone calls it to your attention. Notice the different colors. This side is darker, this side is lighter. There's all kinds of color cast going on. The inside of this window is a mess. The dishwasher has got all kinds of issues going on with it. So also notice the color casting. There's a little bit of pink and yellow up in here, right around here. There's too much cyan and blue and green coming from the outside. This is a little blown out over here. The hood's a little dark. I can go on, but basically I just wanted to call that to your attention right away. So we did a curves. I did a hue and saturation. Overall, this may not come through the video, but overall removing some yellow. Mainly look at the hood, look under here, before. Keep your eye right here. Oops. And after. Okay, before, after, yellow removed. Then I did another curves. This right here is for the hood, so we can see before, a little dark and dingy, after. Then I also did a hue and saturation on top of that to remove some of the yellow and the red. However, I still see some in there, but we've cleaned that up a little bit later. Next up, look at the dishwasher. Okay, we applied curves to that to bring it up. But notice it's still got a lot of issues going on. It's kind of grainy. It's looking a little not so pretty. We could do better. So then I put a hue and saturation on there to remove some of the red and yellow color cast. And then I did a noise reduction to try to pull out some of that grain. And then I put a gradient on it. This is where it really changes things. And so it doesn't look totally fake like I did a gradient. I reduced the opacity of that gradient by 78%. So you can see here, see, this would be nothing, and this is totally faked out. So we'll go back to 78. Next up, we've got a hue and saturation, looks like to the oven. So let's stare at the range here for a second. Yep, so before, notice this side predominantly, there's some yellow and red tones color casting on there, and there it is cleaned up. Okay, and then I did a brightness to the right side of the oven. Notice right in here, it was a little blue and dingy. We brightened it up a bit. Then I also did an adjustment just up here for the panel. So that was a local zone 2 using luminosity masks up here at the top using Lumenzia or TK, I can't remember. I use both. And then we did a curves adjustment at the bottom, targeting and restricting the change only to this area right here. So let's see. See, we pumped it up a little bit. So before, after, before, after. Okay, so that's all the work on the range. I think I came back to it and cleaned up some additional things as well. And then it looks like I did some exposure work here before, after. Notice some of these areas are dark and in the shadow, and I just kind of brighten those up with some plus exposure. And then I did a hue and saturation just for the stonework out here. Very subtle change. Before, after. That's after, before. Some green and blue after. Okay, very subtle. And then I did, it looks like, remove some of the blue cast that's over here. So there we go. Notice this right there. And there was some blue casting on this faucet as well. So before, after. Hope you can see that. Okay, then I do my more color grading with selective color. There's a compilation of things that goes on here. I don't want to get into it because it's too lengthy, and I don't want this video to be lengthy. It's not about, you know, the exact tools I use. It's more about being aware of what goes into a project like this. So there's some crispening up of the whites and removing some more color cast. It's really all about the color cast and getting the colors right. Okay, so then we now look at the ceiling. So here we have the air vent, a light that's clipped on the side, which makes me nuts, and then this here. Now the reason why I took these out is I'm thinking they might want to use this perhaps for a magazine cover. A little presumptuous of me, but if you don't think ahead and do that exponential thinking while you're on the job site, I hear from magazines all the time, there's not enough headroom for their title. So voila, gone. Then I did some, notice there's a few spots here. There's a shadow from the light coming in on the ceiling. There's a little bit of a pinky, yellowy, reddish thing going on over here. So clean that up. Before, after, before, after. Now let's zoom into the floor, and you'll notice there's all kinds of little scratches and stuff that's been dropped on the floor. Floor cleanup, done. Then I did a zone 1 curves adjustment for the floor. Notice how there's highlight and dark shadow. I wanted to try to even that out a little bit because it's distracting to my eye, and my eye's going right there. So that helped to mute it out a bit. And then an overall levels adjustment. Now, bring your attention to the stove, mainly this window area right here. That's taken care of, but notice you can still see some of it through. That's because we're only at 73%. Okay. Now, this may be very subtle, but notice the color on the island here. That's because the light's coming from the window, and there was not really an overcast day, but it wasn't a lot of blue. So there's a lot of the cast from the trees coming in, the sky, hitting this, changing the color a bit. So I almost didn't catch this until the very end, but I looked back and I thought, you know, this is a little blue right here. There's some blue in here. And we want to even it out with this. Not to make it exactly the same, because it should be different, because it's facing a different direction. And all fabrics and wood and just about any surface will pick up all different kinds of gradients and textures. So here's what I did. Boom. Watch the island. Let's zoom in a little bit. Before, notice the blue and it's kind of dingy. Now it's much nicer. It matches much better. So I picked out one of the colors in here. I lassoed just the wood part, and then I brushed it in using the color mode. Very important. Next. Looks like I did a ceiling hue cleanup. So notice we still have a little bit of residual. Yes, it's persnickety stuff, but it makes me insane. So there we go. After. Before, mainly look right here. After. You don't want it so white and sterile that there is no color cast, because with our eyes, we always are going to see that. But in a magazine, you kind of want this really crisp and clean, really polished looking. And let's see what else we got here. Okay, layer 4, I'm going to name that. That is a highlights adjustment. All right. Now let's zoom in to right here. Okay. This is before. See how kind of just, it wasn't quite clipping, but getting to be blown out, and couldn't really tell the lemon there. Now that's recovered. In addition, watch the window. Watch like right in here. Before, after, before, after. So it cleaned up some of the highlights. The hood was still bothering me at the end, so I lassoed that in and put a hood gradient on it and reduced the opacity to 41 just to kind of clean that up a bit. And then I did a sharpen. So smart sharpen to really pop. I know this is probably not going to come through on the video, but it will when you print it. So I did a smart sharpen, and in the end, these little bits and pieces on the sink were bothering me, so I did a final sink cleanup. I didn't put a gradient on it. I just went ahead and got rid of those little scratches. So that's kind of a wrap up. There's probably a few more things that I'm going to do to it before I deliver these, but I wanted to, while I had all the, all the palette, the whole stack here open, I wanted to document it because I've never actually done that. I've done lots of videos and tutorials on how I do things, which are about an hour long, but at this point I wanted to just document for my designers and builders and architects, and maybe even my high-end real estate luxury listings agents, what goes into producing a proper file that will print well in a magazine. Hope you guys enjoyed that and got something out of it. And please contact me for any bookings or information about my availability and things of that nature. Thanks so much for watching.